My wife's toxic friends convinced her to disappear for a week to teach me a lesson about not helping enough around the house. But when I came home to find her gone with no explanation and thought something terrible had happened, I called the police and filed a missing person report, only to discover she was hiding at her sister's house laughing about my panic with her friends who filmed my breakdown for social media. I'm still shaking as I write this. My name is Jake, I'm 29, and I thought I was married to someone I could trust with my life. My wife Emma and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. Until last week, I believed we had a strong relationship with normal couple problems that we worked through together like adults. I was wrong. Let me start by saying that Emma and I both work full-time demanding jobs. I'm a software engineer at a startup, and she's a marketing coordinator at a mid-size firm. We both put in long hours, and yes, we've had ongoing discussions about household responsibilities. Emma has been feeling like she does more around the house, and honestly, she's probably right. I've been trying to do better, picking up more chores, but apparently not fast enough for her liking. Enter Emma's friend group, Melissa, Ashley, and Brooke. These 3 women have been divorced a combined total of 5 times, and they seem to take pride in their ability to handle men. Every time Emma hangs out with them, she comes home with some new complaint about our relationship or some story about how one of them put their ex in his place. I've always found their dynamic toxic, but Emma says they're just supportive friends who want the best for her. 3 weeks ago, Emma came home from girls' night more agitated than usual. She said her friends had opened her eyes to how much I was taking advantage of her. According to them, I was a typical lazy husband who expected her to be my maid while I sat around playing video games. For the record, I play maybe 2 hours of games per week, usually after Emma goes to bed because she goes to sleep earlier than I do. She started listing off everything she does around the house versus what I do, and I'll admit, the list was unbalanced. But instead of having a productive conversation about how to fix it, she kept saying things like Melissa says no woman should have to live like this and Ashley's ex tried this same thing and she showed him real quick. I suggested we make a chore schedule or even hire a cleaning service since we can afford it, but Emma said that wasn't the point. The point was that I should just know what needs to be done and do it without being asked. I agreed to try harder and started taking on more responsibilities immediately. I thought we were working through it. Last Monday, I came home from work to an empty house. Emma's car wasn't in the driveway, which wasn't unusual since she sometimes works late or stops by the store. But when 7 p.m. rolled around and she hadn't come home or answered my texts, I started to worry. By 8 p.m., I was calling her phone repeatedly. It went straight to voicemail. I texted her sister Maya asking if she'd heard from Emma. Maya said no and seemed confused about why I was asking. I called Emma's work, and her boss said she'd left at her normal time around 5:30. By 9 p.m., I was genuinely panicked. Emma has never been the type to just disappear without communication. She's actually usually overly communicative about her plans. I went upstairs to see if any of her clothes were missing, thinking maybe she'd mentioned a work trip I'd forgotten about. That's when I noticed that several of her outfits were gone, along with her toiletries and her favorite pillow. Her laptop was missing too. It looked like she'd packed for a trip, but she'd never mentioned going anywhere. I called Maya again, this time more frantic, and asked if Emma had said anything about going out of town. Maya said absolutely not, and she was starting to worry too. I called Emma's parents, and they hadn't heard from her either. By 10 p.m., I was convinced something terrible had happened. I called the police. The officer who came to take the report was sympathetic but explained that since Emma had clearly packed her things, it looked more like she'd left voluntarily than something sinister. But he took down all the information and said they'd do a welfare check. I didn't sleep that night. I kept calling Emma's phone, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. I called hospitals. I even drove around town looking for her car, checking parking lots of places she might go. Nothing. Tuesday was a blur. I took the day off work and spent it calling everyone we knew. I posted on social media asking if anyone had seen Emma. I was genuinely terrified that something had happened to her, that maybe she'd been in an accident or worse. Maya came over Tuesday evening because she was worried about me. She said I looked terrible, which I did. I hadn't eaten or slept properly since Monday. We spent the evening calling more people and trying to think of anywhere Emma might be. Wednesday morning, the police called to say they'd tracked Emma's phone to a location about an hour away, but when they went to do the welfare check, no one answered the door. They said they'd keep trying. I was losing my mind. That's when I started calling Emma's friends. Melissa claimed she hadn't heard from Emma since the weekend. Ashley said the same thing. But when I called Brooke, something in her voice seemed off. She was too casual, too dismissive of my worry. She kept saying things like I'm sure she's fine and maybe she just needed some space. Thursday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Emma's work and told them I was her emergency contact and needed to know if they'd heard anything. Her boss was concerned and said Emma had called in sick for the week but hadn't given any details about where she was. That evening, Maya called me crying. She said she'd been thinking about how weird Brooke had sounded and decided to do some detective work. She'd driven by Brooke's house and seen Emma's car parked behind it, partially hidden by other cars. I felt this mixture of relief and absolute fury. Relief that Emma was safe, and fury that she'd let me think something terrible had happened to her. Maya and I drove to Brooke's house together. I rang the doorbell, and when Brooke answered, her face went white. "Where is my wife?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Brooke stammered something about not knowing what I was talking about, but then I heard Emma's voice from inside saying, "It's okay, Brooke."
Promise you you'll catch me later.